Hey, this is JDEG, and we're starting up once again with the Marvel Snap podcast. Sorry for not giving too many episodes lately. Been a little bit difficult with Christmas and everything, but we're back with some content for the To Infinite and Beyond Marvel Snap podcast. Today is the last day of 2023. I'm recording this right now on New Year's Eve. Um, and I just wanted to go over what we can look forward to in January. There's a lot of stuff that we get to look at, and I was just really craving to make some content. So I'm really excited for this. I'm gonna run through basically all our new cards, and then maybe just a couple of upcoming events and things that are gonna be happening in January. Without further ado, let's start. We've got Scar. So he's a 6 cost 11 power that reads cost 2 less for each of your cards that has 10 or more power. And so I should clarify first, once again, we're using the same format where the left cards are just kind of some synergies or talking points that I wanted to mention, and on the right is basically going to be either the Spotlight Week or, in Scar's case, since he's a Season Pass card, we're going to be featuring him with the Season Pass variants, right? And so Scar 611 costs 2 less for each of your cards that has 10 or more power. Now that should clarify that that does not necessarily mean that you have to play the 10 power cards. You can play something like Namor, and then that ongoing means that he's at 11 power, which is more than 10 power, so Scar will discount by 2. Now, on the other hand, is if your opponent Shangs that Namor, then and you're waiting to play your Scar on turn 6, they Shang your Namor on turn 5. Now your Scar has lost his discount, right? So Scar's pretty interesting. On the baseline, you play your Namor, you play an Atuma, something like that, where you're getting that turn 4, because there's quite a bit of a surprising amount of turn 4 plays that you can use for this Scar. And then you have a 411. 411's okay. You might have to be using some of these kind of mediocre cards just to kind of line up some of them. You've got Sentry, Namor, Atuma, Typhoid Mary. I'm forgetting one of them, but it's not a great list, right? Um, and they don't really have much synergy betwixt each other either. So you've got to kind of figure out something that's going to work out. And I don't think that you really want to be playing this as a 411. Where it gets juicy though is, you play your turn 5 another 10 plus power card, where you're having a 2 cost Scar along with another 4 drop that's a big chonker on turn 6, right? You play your Scar plus one of your other 4 cost 10 power cards, and that's a pretty powerful play. Something like Blob really enjoys this kind of effect where you're kind of stacking your deck full of high power cards. Wave is another way of cheating out, a 10 plus power card on turn 4. I think that's really when you want to start ramping it up. Zabu as well, to where you can play, a Name or a Sentry or something on turn 3, another 10 power card on turn 5, and then all of a sudden you've got your and as well as turn 4. And then if you've gotten that Dream Curve, then Scar 0 cost on turn 6, and you can play him alongside another 6 cost card or something, maybe two 4 drops along with that Zabu, right? And so that comes really really powerful. And She Hulk as well, another way of cheating out that power on turn 4 to get those quick discounts on Scar. And so I feel like this is something that's going to be really powerful once we can figure out the deck. The issue is, once again, those 4 cost cards are really kind of they're pretty bad for the most part, and there's not many of them that tend to see competitive play. Sentry, I think, is the only one that's seeing play right now. But Sentry has his own deck. He's got it. He's kind of in the Nihilist package. Scar definitely wants something more than Sentry right now. Annihilus, what are they going to get for Scar? They're going to have Darkhawk, maybe if they're running a Darkhawk package, and then the Sentry, and that's it. And I don't think that's quite enough for Scar. But I was able to, with the help of our dear Squash, we were able to figure out a deck that kind of could meld some of these different aspects of Scar synergy. Your Professor X works pretty well with that Atuma. Namor works very well with Miss Marvel, and you're just trying any deck that you build right now. You're just trying to stuff in Miss Marvel if you can, and Miss Marvel works pretty well with this as well, right? And Zabu, of course. I think that no matter what you're doing with Scar, you want to be doing some kind of Zabu shell. It just feels like you want to play a power 10 power card on turn three, ideally with the Zabu, and that makes that your curve quite a lot better. Another thing that you can do is magic that also helps it to where you're able to play a zero cost scar more effectively or more often. Maybe you play magic on three, your big boy on turn four, your big boy on turn five, your big boy on turn six. You've got a zero cost scar on turn seven, right? Hulkbuster's another interesting one. Only issue is that you can't really proc him on curve to get that turn four scar if you wanted to. The only ones that you are really available are Lizard. So you turn two Lizard, turn two Lizard, turn three Hulkbuster. Now you've got a 10 power card, as well as Maximus, but I don't really think you want to be playing Maximus on turn two. So it's more of a niche thing, but something just to consider. Forge as well as something to consider. Hand buffs are all things that are going to proc Scar. Warpath, another one that's quite interesting. And you can see, right? Warpath was the one that I forgot as a 10 power card for turn four. And it's just so awkward because you have a two-man Namor, and those ones want to be the only card at their location, right? But Warpath wants you to stack every card into two locations. So it just becomes quite awkward with Scar, where you have to choose one of them and kind of build around it. The only reason that I really chose Namor and Natuma is because you have the consistency of both of them kind of playing with each other to make that kind of idea. And Black Knight, another one that's pretty interesting. Maybe there's some kind of direction with him. You discard your big boy, you play your Ebony Blade, and now that's something that Scar gets discounted by. It's another deck that really likes that Zabu discount, so I could see that working out. One of the other things that I forgot to mention was Sauron. So maybe Sauron with a Typhoid Mary kind of shell, right? Maybe later on in February, once Cull Obsidian releases. Cull Obsidian is a 4 cost 10 power that you can only play at a spot with an Infinity Stone, and he says ongoing can't be destroyed. But if you get rid of that ongoing with the Sauron, similar to Ebony Maw, then you're getting rid of the entire effect, so you can play it wherever you want. It's kind of a niche case scenario. I don't think it'll be great, but just something to consider. All these 4 cost 10 power cards are all worth looking into for Scar, and I feel like they're going to all see a lot more. They're all going to be a lot more viable. They're going to have much more a higher chance to see play if Scar works out, because when you get that Scar rolling, it's such a huge payoff. For people that are listening right now and not necessarily looking at the visuals, the list was Korg, Zabu, Armor, Jeff, Black Widow, Rockslide, Darkhawk, Miss Marvel, Namor, Atuma, Professor X, and Scar, of course. I think that this is something that has some direction, and I could see it being viable. I think Scar is a great card if you can make it work. Next up, we're on Kyera. Something to note is that this in January, it's going to be the first ever time that where they're going to be releasing a new card the same week as the season pass releasing. So basically, that first week of January, we're going to have Kyera and Scar releasing at the same time. What Kyera is, 3 cost 4 power that says ongoing. Your 1 and 6 cost cards can't be destroyed. She has an amazing Spotlight variant. She's going to be releasing with High Evolutionary, Nebula. Not a huge fan of the Nebula Spotlight variant, but the High Evolutionary one's very cool. So I think she's a really interesting card. My first thing that popped up in my head is I see ongoing, I see 1 cost cards can't be destroyed. I think Khazar, Spectrum Zoo, is something that I really enjoyed playing once that first Spectrum buff came in to make her 7 power. But then you just immediately lost to any Killmongers. So Kaya can really protect you from that. I think that should be something that I'm discussing right now. Is Kyra is protecting you from Killmonger, and she's going to be protecting you from Shang-Chi primarily, right? Spider-Man 2099 hits your 1 drop, you're not too concerned. Uh, but primarily, this is going to be dodging Killmonger and Shang-Chi. And so this is a lot better than armor in these kinds of scenarios because you're able to protect every lane. So something like Spectrum Thanos, they were already running armor, but you still kind of lost to Killmonger just because you were forced to play your 1 drops to all the locations, and so those other 2 locations just wouldn't be safe from getting completely obliterated. The Kyra also works really well with High Evolutionary. That's another deck that enjoys protecting its 1 drops and 6 drops. Because at the end of the day, it's more important that you protect your 1 drops, in my opinion, from getting obliterated by Killmonger. because you're not necessarily cheating out a six drop in, say, High Evolutionary, right? In Thanos, you're not really going to be cheating out a six drop early to be Shang-Chi'd. All this is going to protect you for your six drops is if there's a limbo and you play six drop for whatever reason on turn six, or if you cheated out a six drop early and you don't want that to get shanked. So, maybe Lockjaw Thanos is another deck that I was considering. It really sucked a lot of the time to not be able to play your blob early, as an example, because you would completely get blown out by Shang-Chi. Now, this should be noted that this isn't an armor and that you can't play your Devil Dinosaur on turn 5 and fully expect it to be safe. This isn't going to protect that. It's only going to be your 6 costs and your 1 costs. So there's some upsides and some downsides, as well as that 3 cost 4 power stat line being, a little bit worse than the armor stat line of 2 3. But onto decks, I'm really excited because Howard the Duck is going to be dropping to Series 3, or no, Series 4 in January. So of course, I had to make my Spectrum Thanos deck with Howard the Duck since he one drop ongoing worked really well with Spectrum. Uh, I don't fully expect this deck to be any good, but I just felt like I had to make it. Kyera really opens up a lot of. I guess I should say Kyera makes it to where I'm not going to be as frustrated when I play the deck and lose to Killmonger immediately. Now, if you want an actually competitive list, then on the bottom there is this high evolutionary list. It's pretty standard where you just kind of sub in Kyera instead of armor. Maybe you want to kind of mess around with the curve now because you have a lot of three drops. Maybe you drop the Cosmo for a Shadow King or something. I don't know. Maybe not Shadow King, but some other two cost card to kind of compensate with the energy curve. But uh, for the most part, it's pretty standard. For people listening, the Spectrum Thanos right now is going to be Ant-Man, Ghost, Howard the Duck, Squirrel Girl, Martyr, Kyera, Shang-Chi, Kazar, Blue Marvel, Valkyrie, Spectrum, and Thanos. As you can tell, it's just all my pet cards that I love to play. And then the more serious high evolutionary list is going to be Sunspot, Misty Knight, Shocker, Magic, Cosmo, Kyera, Cyclops, High Evolutionary, Leech, She-Hulk, Hulk, and the Infinite. So quite a bunch of big boys to be protected. Moving on, the next week we're going to be running with Hercules. So Hercules is a 4 cost 6 power that reads the first time another card moves here each turn, move it to another location. He's going to be releasing with a pretty cool Spotlight variant, an amazing Werewolf by Night comic book variant, and a Howard the Duck variant with the Infinity Gauntlet that he's holding. So pretty cool stuff. Um, but it's quite an awkward card. I'm not huge on Hercules because he's at a 4 cost. And so what he wants you to do is he wants you to play him on turn 4, and then on turn 5, then you're going to be, you move your Vulture there with an Iron Fist, with a Ghost Spider or something, right? And so it moves there, it gets its +5 power, and then Hercules is going to move it out, and so it's going to get another +5 power. So pretty cool, pretty powerful, right? But then you get into this awkward point where, similar to Spider-Man 2099, it's turn 4 that you're playing this. You only have two turns to go in with this. You don't really have a bunch of flexibility, and you have to kind of commit, I guess you could say. You don't get as much upside over 2 turns as compared to if this were, say, a 3 drop. If this were a 3 drop, I'd be a lot more excited, but this could be a 3-3, a 3-2 for whatever, and I'd be much more excited about it just because it's not as awkward, right? So you're kind of forced. You can't even tempo out of Vulture unless you cloak. It's so awkward at 4 cost that I'm not a huge fan of it. Craven, just another example, but still, I'm not vibing. It's just not enough time that you have to abuse that kind of effect of moving one card in to get its initial payoff and then moving it out again for more payoff. So Zabu's something that you could maybe look at, but the issue is there just aren't a huge amount of 4 drops that you want to be running and move. Spider-Man 2099 doesn't really synergize with this since he only procs once. Um, and I don't see them ever buffing Spider-Man 2099 to destroy based on each move. So unless they do that, I don't see it. Either way, though, I built the deck. Ghost Spider, Iron Fist, Dagger, Craven, Zabu, Doctor Strange, Cloak, Vulture, Hercules, Iron Lad, Spider-Man 2099, and Heimdall. like I said, I don't vibe with it too much. The Doctor Strange buff to 2 cost helps a lot, obviously. And maybe you can fit in a Miles Morales here somewhere, but I don't love it. Phoenix Force and multiple man is another avenue. Issue is that you want to be playing a Phoenix Force on turn 4, so unless you find the time to Hercules on 4 and then Phoenix Force on 5, and then you get like one extra proc, I don't see it. Captain Marvel. This is kind of a weird shout out, but he is gonna move your opponent's cards out as well if they move there. So if you want to lock down a lane from a Jeff moving in there, from a Captain Marvel winning the lane or whatever, then Hercules will push them out. So I don't think it's ever gonna come into play too much, but just something to consider. Maybe you don't want your card to be moved by Magneto, and Magneto's a huge thing, so Hercules can help you with that. Who knows? Just a little shout out that I wanted to have to keep in mind that it's also going to push your opponent's cards out as well. Moving on, we've got Meek, a 1 cost, 1 power. After each turn, if you discarded any cards, gain +1 power for each and move. Meek's going to be releasing with a decent Spotlight variant, as well as in the Nihilus and a cool Phoenix Force variant that I'm really excited for. But he's just going to be a discard payoff. That's it. He's kind of, you can compare him to Morbius. The difference between him and Morbius is that if you move ahead of time, or let me reword this. I can play Morbius on turn 6 and it's going to be 12 power or whatever, right? It's going to keep track of all my discards. If I top deck Meek on turn 6, he's only going to gain power for each card I discarded on turn 6. He's not going to keep in mind that, I played MODOK on turn 5, and he's not going to gain power for all those cards that MODOK discarded if I play him down on turn 6, right? So he's a significantly worse top deck than Morbius, but he does fill a hole. He fills 2 holes, actually, that discard has right now. That's that they don't have any good 1 drops. Right now, they're kind of forced to be playing Blade. And even Nebula, despite not really having any synergies with Nebula. So it's kind of nice that they finally got a 1 drop, as well as that this is kind of something that can fill a role similar to Jeff, to where this is getting into the hard to reach locations, right? Or has a chance to. It's not necessarily guaranteed to, because it's random moving and you don't know where it's going to move, but it has a chance to get into those hard to reach locations. Death's Domain, kind of similar to Proxima Midnight, that's going to be releasing in February. She's a 4 cost, 6 power. That once you discard her, she goes to your power with the least, your location with the least power, if possible, right? And so she's kind of similar to that, where she's filling that gap for discard. So I don't think Beak is a bad card per se. I just think he's kind of filler for discard, not necessarily a standout. Another thing with Craven, I should kind of go on to here, is that as you can see with Miles Morales and Silk, Meek is kind of like a Silk in that you're moving around every turn. Maybe there's some kind of hybrid build that you can do where you're running Miles Morales, Craven, Silk, Meek, some discards, maybe some other cards that enjoy moving, and then all of a sudden you have kind of a hybrid build. I don't. I tried to make it. I couldn't really figure it out. Maybe it's something that we can revisit later on, but just something to keep in mind. Um, and then as for an actual build, it just seems kind of like a standard discard build for now. I don't think discard's going to be too good until February, once we have some more discard synergies coming out, just like that Proxima Midnight that I mentioned. But for now, it would just be something like Meek, Morbius, Wolverine, Swarm, Colleen Wing, Gambit, Daken, Lady Sif, Dracula, Hellcow, MODOK, and Apocalypse. And the America Chavez nerf just really hurt this card. So I don't think that Meek is enough. Like I said, maybe in February it'll be okay. Because, you look at this discard list right now, and I still don't feel even comfortable that these are solid 12. Like Gambit, Daken, Hellcow, I've never really been big fans of. Lady Sif only really has Apocalypse, and then that's it. So I feel like there's quite a lot of gaps still for discard, but Meek is a good spot, as well as the upcoming cards in February, that I feel like there's going to be something eventually. Moving on, we've got Grandmaster. And so Grandmaster is a 2 cost, 0 power. that says on reveal, move one of your other on reveal cards here to the middle location. Its ability happens again. So Grandmaster's going to be releasing with a really cool Spotlight variant, one that I might actually go for, as well as a Loki and Hitmonkey variant that I'm so-so on. Um, and so Grandmaster, the first thing that you immediately think of with repeating on reveal is Absorbing Man, obviously, and it's really eerily similar to Absorbing Man, in that you're just repeating a on reveal. Now, Absorbing Man is kind of different in the fact that you kind of have to curve him. You're not really often playing a 5 cost on reveal, and then on turn 6 you're playing Absorbing Man. That doesn't really happen too much because you could just play a 6 cost card. It doesn't tend to be worth it. Now, Grandmaster, though, makes it a lot easier to pair it up and combo it, as opposed to Absorbing Man, where it's a 4 cost card, right? So, something like Ravana Renslayer is really interesting with Grandmaster. You have some things that you can abuse. The first thing that comes up is White Tiger. So maybe on turn 4 or turn 5, you play your White Tiger plus Grandmaster. Uh, and that becomes a lot more interesting, right? Something else that you have is cheating at something with Wave, and then you copy it with Grandmaster, right? So that's something that you can do with Absorbing Man, but once again, the curve becomes a little awkward. Ravana and the fact that it's only 2 costs makes it a lot more viable in my eyes. Um, and just the fact that it's not as clunky and where you have to specifically curve one after another. I can play, Wave into Doctor Doom, and then turn 5 do whatever, and then turn 6 I can play my Grandmaster. That's not necessarily the case of Absorbing Man. And then lastly, something that I thought was really interesting, I didn't even think of until today, was a Beast. It's actually pretty interesting that you can, play your Beast onto a location, bring back all your 1 cost cards, and now Beast is the only card of that location, so you can play all those 0 cost, 1 cost cards into the middle, and then you play the Grandmaster on that right or left lane that you played the Beast. The Beast moves into the middle, and it reprocs once again all these 1 drops so that you get them back one more time. So I think that's a really cool concept. I tried to build it. I wasn't a huge fan of the deck, but I think that that's something that is something to keep in mind later on. As you can see, one more time, I'm going to be doing a ramp list. So this kind of ramp list was Grandmaster, Ravana, Renslayer, Lockjaw, Wave, Jubilee, Wong, Iron Lad, White Tiger, Black Panther, Arnim Zola, Doctor Doom, and Odin. And it's pretty interesting what you can do with this Ravana kind of package. In my case, I'm running just Jubilee, White Tiger, Arnim Zola as enough, but what you can also, oh, and Grandmaster, obviously. But what you can also do is, maybe you tag in a Wolfsbane, Ironheart, Mystique with the Wong kind of combo, right? Maybe that's enough. Maybe you do that alongside the Iron Man so that your Mystique has another target outside of Wong. There's a lot of different things you can do, but overall, I just kind of felt like there was just so many things that I can do with Grandmaster here. And the whole point of what I'm imagining is that, say I play my powerful on reveal on turn 5, on turn 4, right? And I want to be able to play the Grandmaster as well as something else, as well as another power play. Because otherwise, I would rather just be playing Absorbing Man, and we know from past experience that that's not a great play line, right? So you want to be spending that extra energy that Grandmaster has saved you on another power play, so something like Jubilee, Iron Lad. I feel are really good ideas for something like this. Now, another idea that I've had is that, along with that Beast line, you have Hitmonkey, and Thor, some kind of miracle deck, Bast. Grandmaster being a 0 cost, a 0 power card means that Bast is another card to look into. I'm sure that there's something there, but I couldn't figure out a solid 12 that I felt comfortable putting onto YouTube as opposed to my perfect Spectrum Thanos list. And I think that it's something to keep in mind. Maybe someone else figures this out that's a better deck builder in Marvel Snap than me. I'd be more than happy to see that. One last thing that I wanted to shout out with Grandmaster is Killmonger. Killmonger and Shang-Chi, all these tech cards that, maybe you kind of bamboozle your opponent where you play the Killmonger on 3, they think that they're safe, so they play all their 1 drops, and now bam, you Grandmaster them and you repeat the Killmonger on reveal and kill all their 1 drops when they weren't expecting it, right? So, same thing goes for Shang-Chi, et cetera, whatever other tech card that you want to say. So just an extra play line. Silver Surfer is another one that's powerful. Rude, I think that Absorbing Man is a little bit better for something like that, but maybe you want an extra thing, and maybe you're able to make some kind of Silver Surfer list that really enjoys this. Just as a shout out. But let's move on. Grandmaster's definitely something that I'm interested in. Probably the hardest one to deck build for is what I would say. And so here's one of the cards that I'm most excited about is Beta Ray Bill. So he's a 4 cost 5 power that says on reveal, shuffle Stormbreaker into your deck. And so he's going to be releasing with a pretty interesting Spotlight variant, a comic book Galactus that looks amazing, and Elsa Bloodstone. So I'm particularly excited about this week because I also don't have Galactus. Finally be opening Galactus, so really excited for this week. Now you may be wondering, 4 cost 5 power Shovel Stormbreaker new deck. What's Stormbreaker? Stormbreaker is a 0 cost 1 power on reveal double Beta Ray Bill's power. So quite literally a Thor clone. I don't know the canon or the comic book knowledge, but from what I understood is he's basically another Thor. So pretty fitting. And this really adds a lot of redundancy for all those Thor kind of game plans where you play the Jane, you play your copying. So Beta Ray Bill, obviously, you look at him, he's a 4 cost 5 power. Thor used to be a 4 cost 6 power, and he was completely unplayable. So you say, why would I play Beta Ray Bill, right? Why would I play him over Thor? I should really note that I don't think you ever play Beta Ray Bill over Thor. I think that you run them both together. It gives you a lot of extra consistency. And so when you run them both together, it kind of gives you some really cool play lines, as you can see in this list, where you play your Thor, you play your Beta Ray Bill, and then the next thing you play Jane, and now you have both of these hammers, and then you can play both of the hammers plus an Odin, right? And so Beta Ray Bill is going to outscale the Thor once you copy the on reveal, right? So he's the same power as Thor if you just play the hammer and that's it. But once you copy that hammer, then he outscales Thor. That's where he's going to outshine him. And so, the Odin, maybe a Wong, maybe a Grandmaster. All these kind of cards are really interesting. So I have a typical, Lockjaw Thor list that's kind of fallen out of favor, but maybe this kind of brings it back. I'm really excited for it. It's got Wasp, Jeff, Lockjaw, Killmonger, Thor, Jubilee, Wong, Beta Ray Bill, Jane Foster, Vision, Doctor Doom, and Odin. So it's really interesting that we're able to kind of look into Odin. He wasn't really something that was huge in Lockjaw Thor list before, but Beta Ray Bill kind of encourages you, along with Wong, to kind of do that idea. Another idea that I had is kind of revisiting that Thor Miracle deck with the Hint Monkey. So you've got Wasp, Yellow Jacket, Nebula, Jeff, Mysterio, Bishop, Hit Monkey, Thor, Beta Ray Bill, Miss Marvel, Valkyrie, and Jane Foster. Like I said, I think that basically from now on, if you're ever running a Thor deck, then you're going to throw in Beta Ray Bill. I don't think you're ever going to see Beta Ray Bill in a deck without Thor and Jane Foster. So not a huge fan of that design, and that you kind of forced to run them together. But I am a huge fan of that kind of Thor Jane Foster decks. So I'm really excited for this. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I look forward to high rolling people by specifically drawing Thor into Beta Ray Bill, into Jane, into Odin. The whole Asgard idea is really exciting to me. So let's move on. That was the last card. So I just wanted to go over a couple of little things that are left to look forward to in January. You've got a Ghost Rider variant that I'm very excited for. It's Maria Wolf, one of my favorite artists. So this Ghost Rider is going to be the Conquest reward. So really excited for this one to come out. As you can see in the bottom right corner, you've also got the Dan Hip Multiple Man that's going to be coming near the end of January. Just another variant I'm excited for. Not many variants this month that I'm actually excited for, sadly, but we've got an artist showcase ink pulp that I wanted to shout out. Some really cool ink pulp Mojo and Invisible Woman variants for 4,200 gold. Really cool bundle with the Kim Jacinto Sauron that looks amazing for 2,000 gold, as well as a really cool Doctor Doom Kai variant for $30, along with an Odin that I'm so on. But the Doctor Doom's really cool. We'll see if I end up getting them or not. I just wanted to shout those out. Some that personally interest me. Hopefully they interest you. And on January 30th, there's going to be a Pandart showcase. Quite a lot of Pandart variants. I couldn't even count them all for you real quick if I could. But personally, I'm actually I know a lot of people are a big fan of them. I think I'm only gonna get the Mr. Negative, maybe. I don't even play Mr. Negative that much, so maybe I even pass on it. But I'm sure people are excited for it, and I just wanted to shout that out that there's quite a lot. I'm sure that, in the next data mine they're gonna kind of split them up to not release all on the same day, 'cause it's kind of strange that they're all releasing on the same day. There's no way to kind of get them all. So I'd imagine that they kind of break it up, but who knows? Best of luck to you all in getting your favorite panda art variants. And one last thing is that we've got some expected series drops that I actually forgot to put in this. But I just know that Howard is going to Series 4, so I'm excited for that. I'll link it in the description or something if you want to see. But really exciting for players. It looks like they're going to be doing it maybe seasonally, so every 3 months or so. Uh, the devs didn't really clarify it, but if I were to guess, they said that they would be doing it every once in a while, not every month now. So, maybe every 3 months, maybe every half a year, who knows? At least they finally did it. It's been quite a while since our last series drop. So, something to look forward to for players. I know that I'm looking forward to getting Howard. So, in the token shop, I should say. But I'm looking forward to that, as well as some data mines. So it should be, I think it was January 9th, that we'll be getting our first our data mines, as well as a big patch. I think that the new season, however, is going to be starting on January 2nd. So, 1 week of playing, and then data mines a week later with the Hercules release. And so something to look forward to is that it looks like we're going to be getting some new split options. So something that was data mined was like a space background instead of gold or an ink or a foil or a prism, a space background. So, I'm sure that there's others data mine there that will be data mined as well. Maybe they even release it that week. Who knows? Just something to look forward to. I know that I'm excited to see it with the that data mine soon. So, really looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much for your time and for watching. As always, this has been the To Infinite and Beyond podcast, and I really appreciate your time. Thanks again. Bye bye.